ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for John Manners-Bell. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for those very kind words as well from Paul. Just like to add my own greetings to you. It's a great opportunity to be here, back in Singapore, after a few years away now. We used to be here quite regularly, but one thing with COVID and everything, I'm sure everyone's aware, got in the way. But it's great to be back. And one thing that hasn't changed has been the vibe, the enthusiasm, the optimism and the positivity of Singapore. And it's just wonderful to be back in this sort of environment where there's such a can-do attitude. And to be quite honest, it's a very good antidote to Europe. When I was introducing a similar event, I think it was Intermodal in Barcelona, just about a month or so ago, I asked the audience how positive they were about the prospects for the coming year. And in a room bigger, an audience bigger than this, nobody put up their hand to say that they were positive about 2026. Now, I'm guaranteed, I won't do it today, but I will guarantee you that I think there's a lot more positivity in this part of the world than there is in Europe. And that's something I think that the Europeans need to learn about. So without any more ado, let me move on to our session this morning. As Paul said, we're very, very lucky to have got two outstanding speakers. So maybe I'll ask both Christopher and Lawrence to come on stage, and then we shall do some introductions. Thank you, Christopher and Lawrence. Fantastic, and look, the technology is working seamlessly, so thank you very much to the IT department. It all seems to be working pretty well. So you've already heard about me, John Manners-Bell from TI Insight. Let me first introduce you to our first speaker, Lawrence Cheng, who is the APAC Supply Chain and Global Logistics Lead for Glory. A Japanese company, but with worldwide operations. We're very lucky to have Lawrence here today. He has 30 years experience, international experience, leading complex end-to-end operations across the Asia-Pacific and global markets. And then I think before that, you were also at Apple, is that right? Or?
Yeah, I was with Apple, as well.
Fantastic. And maybe we'll just come on in a second to what Glory does, for those of you who don't know. But we've also got with us on stage Christopher Logan. I've known Christopher for probably 30 years plus, I would say. You couldn't ask for a more experienced speaker this morning. And I think about half your career has been spent in logistics companies and the other half in a sort of advisory role as well. But now you're president of Logisteed International Company. And before that, I'll just pick out a few highlights. You were president of Livingston, USA, freight forwarding company, but also chief strategy and marketing officer of Agility, worked for Accenture as well. So a huge breadth of knowledge and experience. So Lawrence, it'd be really useful, I think, for us all just to find out if you could just introduce your company a little bit and your role, and then we can come on to probing a little bit deeper into some of these questions.
Sure. Thank you, and good morning to all. I'm Lawrence. I work for Glory Global Solutions. It's headquarters in UK. So effectively, the company deals with cash solutions. We're talking about the dollars, the notes, the cash part of it, but integrating with the solutions of it with cash and non-cash together. So is a Japanese company, as mentioned, of course, but I work on the international aspects of it, except Japan. and I'm responsible for Asia Pacific, supporting the regional presidents. I have two roles. One is on the APEC supply chain. So I head the APEC supply chain for this part of the region. The other role that I have is of global logistics. So I take care of international freight and logistics globally as well. So I deal with all the partners like logistics and the rest as well. So yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, right?
Thank you, Lawrence. And Christopher, Logisteed, it's a super interesting company. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about it and the history.
Excellent. Thanks, John, and thanks for everybody for joining us this morning. So Logisteed is a relatively new brand name. It's been in the market for 2 years, but the company has been around for a very long time. It was the rebrand of Hitachi Transport System, and it was rebranded 2 years ago. So Logisteed is the largest contract logistics service provider in all of Asia. So again, that's probably news to many of you. We're larger than any of the local Asian players that are the champions in their countries, and also larger than the big global contract logistics players, their Asia operations. We're headquartered in Japan, in Tokyo, and half of our business is in Japan, and the other half of the business is outside of Japan. I lead the international business, so everything outside of Japan. As you would imagine, for a logistics service provider, we do contract logistics, we do global freight forwarding, air freight, ocean freight, value-added transportation, pretty much all over the world, although our biggest strengths are in Asia Pacific, with a reasonable network in Europe and a reasonable network in North America. So as you would imagine, just given all the complexity that's going on, it's great to be in Asia, but we're at the center of all the good stuff, but we're also at the center of all the complexity. So looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, Christopher. Okay, now the subject of our session is delivering success in an uncertain world. The reason why we sort of came up with that question is that things have changed very much over the last 10, 15 years or so. Success used to be measured really purely in financial terms. How much could you drive inventory down by? What's the impact on your profit and loss? But one of the things I'd really be interested to find out from our two panelists today is that still the same, or is resilience more important, or is sustainability more important? So maybe I'll come to you first, Lawrence. How do you measure success? Is it still the bottom line, or is it far more complicated than that?
Just like any other company, it definitely needs to look at both top line and bottom line, and also on the cash flow aspects of it. And rightfully, what you mentioned about the inventory, holding costs, and what is happening globally and with the events that's happening in the Red Sea, does at another about 2 weeks, thereabout, which is an increase of inventory on a global basis. And of course, that it's, I would say, non-controllable in one way. And the question is, how are you going to mitigate that? And at the end of it, you still have to fulfill the customer's demands, which is not going to be, it's going to be more demanding as we move along with technology, informations, and so forth. The question would be, how are we going to mitigate that and transform the company and manage the inventory end-to-end and to increase the turns? So the driving factors now, it's all about mitigating, being flexible, adaptable, and to turn the products ASAP, and working with the right partners to support these change and transformations. That's essentially very key. We look at all areas end to end, from the aspects of, from my company, Most of our products are built internally by our own factories in Japan, in Philippines, in China, and elsewhere. So that's where we need to have the visibility end to end, when the product's going to be ready, when it's going to be shipped, what is the mode of transportations, how we're going to go about mitigating that, and looking at the demands of the customers, and of course the aspects of the competitors, how fast you can turn around as compared with your competitors. So that's key. Of course, measuring the cost is one aspect of it, but meeting the requirements of the customers in terms of their demands of installations and so forth. For example, you have the Christmas coming up, the retails, they would need machines to be up before Christmas. And during Christmas time, they will not do anything about it because they are all busy with their retails. And likewise, so success, it is very subjective in one way, but it still very boils down to the bottom line and commercial aspects of it to deliver what we can and building the trust with our customers and our partners as well, and how we can support each other end to end, collaborate and integrate, and providing the kind of reliability and the informations real time if all possible, so that with good informations and security, yeah, it's the other aspects of it that we need to be secure in today's environment. The information that comes in, the security of the information is key, is paramount as well across. So yeah, that's what it's my view of it. Yeah.
Just to pick up one thing you said there, building trust with customers and partners. So partners, I presume you mean your suppliers. Has there been a transformation over the last few years in terms of the relationship that you have with your suppliers, in terms of the depth? Have you got more suppliers to build up that sort of redundancy within your supply network? Or how have you approached many of these big events that we've seen over the last few years?
So for us, in terms of partnerships is key. Having a good partner to work with and to integrate and to understand each other and to build the trust elements. And to me, trust is paramount. Yeah, you need to trust your partners to be able to support you whenever that is required, whenever that you need to get it delivered, the visibility. Some are controllables, some are not. We have situations where the ship breaks down, the engine breaks down, and that's beyond our control, right? So that's understandable, and that's where we need to know and how do we recover that and how we can communicate that as soon as possible to my customers as well, to inform them that, hey, we have a situations, these are the situations, we will try to mitigate it with other products, or how do we get air freight or whichever to support you, or can they just wait for another week, or so forth. So all this is working with the partners. So in terms of the number of partnerships, I'm very selective of who are the partners, and they need to participate in the certain requirements of my company, like a dragon boat, race. We need to have the crew on board a dragon boat and to make sure that when we sound, we drop it, they row it together so that we can hit straight, else the boat will go left and right all over the place, and there are competitions or competitors. So we need to synchronize and to be aligned in terms of objective, the anchor point, and to row forward. So that's key and paramount in that sense. So selecting the partners, and of course, not all partners are everywhere and everywhere strong. And we also need to mitigate because sometimes there are challenges within the partners. So we do have, I wouldn't say a redundancy, but we will have a mitigating part of it where we will have more than one partners or for certain lanes and so forth. That's how we mitigate that. But effectively, we want to build upon the partnership and to grow and to further integrate in terms of system-wise, information-wise, and so forth. And of course, if there are new products being launched, how we're going to mitigate shipments to Europe, to US, for that matter, and with what is happening on a global scales, then that's key, yeah.
Very good. I love the analogy. Thank you. I think I might be using that in the future. Christopher, let's ask the same question to you. You're on the flip side of the coin in terms of being a logistics service provider. So how do you go about defining success? Has that changed, or is that exactly the same it would have been 20 years ago?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say the overall definition of success is similar, but the focus and the emphasis has definitely shifted. The way that we think about success is keeping the supply chains of our customers moving efficiently. And so you could say that would have been the same 10, 20 years ago, but certainly in today's environment, that's even much more important and much more challenging. And we'll get a chance to talk about that. But that's really the cornerstone of how we think about the business. So it's not about, let's be the lowest cost solution, or let's be the plain vanilla mass market solution. It's if you look at certainly what we do at Logisteed is really around how do we craft with our customers, how do we craft the best supply chain for them, for their business and for their end customers. Because ultimately, whether it's, if it's inbound logistics, you need to make sure that the production lines never go down. You need to make sure that all the inbound parts and all the inbound supplies are where they need to be, when they need to be, so there's no disruption for the customer. On the outbound side, you need to make sure that the goods get to their end customers when they're needed in the most efficient way possible, so that you're not doing, rush emergency air freight and so on. So all of that flow needs to get done operationally at a super high level of quality, regardless of what the conditions are, whether they're unanticipated things like the Red Sea crisis, or the Suez Canal getting blocked and things like that happen very quickly, or more like the tariffs that are longer, medium-term issues that affect the supply chain. It's our role as a logistics service provider to manage all of those crises, to work our way around that, to make sure that our customer supply chain stays robust and that their production is not affected and their end customers are not affected. When we do that well, then all the other good stuff happens after that. And so that's really 100% of our focus on what we do and how we think about success internally.
And I guess, the last few years, obviously a buzzword, VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity has been at the top of forefront of everybody's minds. So what practically does that mean to your operations in terms of meeting your customers' needs, especially in the electronics, the high-tech sector, which is, I guess, a speciality of yours?
Yeah, so you can look at it from the macro all the way down to the micro. So at the macro level, one of the things we help a lot of our customers do is supply chain planning and network optimization in terms of where they've got production facilities, where they run warehousing distribution, how they run their inbound, outbound, basically entirely network optimization. And as you alluded to earlier, the parameters are a little bit different today. So the customers are not always looking for what is the lowest unit cost for logistics. They're looking for resilience. They're looking for what's the network that's going to sustain our ability to shift up, shift down, to change our supplier network, and so on. And so at the high level, you work to help the customers redesign their network. So that's really the starting point. The second is really being able to serve customers where they need to be served. So we meet them where they are. The good news at a macro level is that fundamentally, we're in Asia, we live in Asia. Fundamentally, global production of most things are still centered in Asia. Global supply chains are centered in Asia now, and probably for the rest of most of our careers will be centered in Asia. Consumption, there's strong consumption in Asia, but a large part of consumption will still be in the United States and in Western Europe. And those things are not going to change as a result of these short-term geopolitical issues that we're facing right now. And so fundamentally, at a high level, supply chains still need to meet the same challenges. But the specific nature of the exact supply chains, those are being rewired day to day and week to week for individual companies. But as you look at tens of thousands of companies, it's rewiring real time. And so that's the second piece is after you've thought about the network design, it's how do we make sure that our network, our portfolio of contract logistics facilities, our air freight and ocean freight lanes, our overland networks can meet the needs of our customers today and tomorrow, and in that robust way. And then as you get down to more tactical level is how do you make sure your day-to-day, week-to-week operations have got the information, you're talking about the information flows, that we're getting the real-time information flows, we're processing it, and we're applying that human intelligence to this to make sure that we're running everything as efficiently as possible, but also as flexibly as possible, because we're also finding that volumes will go up and go down. You'll see that with the tariffs, people trying to ship before tariffs hit, or when tariffs come, when tariffs go up, they ease back, and so the volatility, as you're saying, the VUCA side, the volatility goes up. So our day-to-day operations needs to be able to manage that. So that's what we're saying. You need to be able to manage the VUCA world at the long term, the medium term, and the short term level, because it impacts everywhere.
Great, thank you very much. Now, before I come to questions from the audience, we have got a spare mic, Heidi, fantastic. I've got one more question myself, and then so if you could use that time to prepare your own questions, that would be great. But I think any session at the moment without mentioning tariffs and trade wars, wouldn't be worth anything. So let's come on to that with you, Lawrence, because you mentioned you got many different suppliers and production locations throughout Asia, and I presume you have a large market in the USA. Has it affected you in any respect?
Yes, definitely there are impacts to that. And like what Chris had mentioned, the supply based, for at least from my company, mainly in Asia. And that is also why pretty much I've been chosen in a way to lead because of the supply base that is here on the global logistics supplying globally. And definitely with the tariffs of what is happening itself does definitely have impacts, especially the supply from China to US has great tariff impacts. So we did mitigations, we did a transfer of productions out from China as well and to other countries to support that, and also to mitigate by having warehouses in Canada and somewhere else to support. So depending on the tariffs on that month, the changes, and see how we can support that aspects of it. That was a bit of a challenge during that period of time. I think, like what Chris mentions, I just want to add on top of that, it's definitely crucial, the network optimizations, resilience aspects of it is definitely crucial in my line of business to see how we can mitigate that. And of course, all the inbound, outbound aspects of it. To me, that's where I need to have a trusted partner to stabilize that, because to me, that is given, that is part and parcel of the business, and I need my partners to make sure that those are already, I can trust that when I say 3 days, I'll get it in 3 days, right? And we can do forward planning and on a global basis, then we can see the visibility and planning end to end from the factory to inbound into the factories, to my factories, and outbound and into the hubs and distributing it to my customers globally. So the visibility and the integrations aspects of it is key, not just on the forward sales, but also on the spares and the rest of the world. So in today's world, and of course with AI coming into the place and all this, and of course with the port congestions, the blank sails, and all this, that's why I am actually very interested to see, especially on these TOCs, how we can look at it, especially on, like for example, Singapore Port, how we can actually transform and to mitigate some of the areas, and how as a company and as global players among here, we can brainstorm together to see how we can mitigate all these blank sails and mitigate all the schedules and so forth, because that does have implications in terms of inventory, in terms of our commitment to our customers and so forth. So that is crucial on a global basis. Yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. And for me, I take care of course, the freight as well as the logistics globally. So I do see that aspects of optimizations and delivery crucial. Yeah, the visibility aspects of it is paramount to our business and to make the right decisions, to give the right advice to my customers and to win the business at the end of it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I was talking to a supply chain manager of Nike recently, and they work on a sort of a 5-year strategic plan for their supply chain. So how on earth are you able to have the flexibility and the agility to be able to cope with tariff changes, which during this year have come in once every 3 months?
Well, supply chain is all about resilient, right? So question is how we're going to go about mitigating all this. So yes, we do have a long-term, mid-term, and short-term plan within my company on a global basis. So for all these, we do have certain mitigating factors on all this as well. So, but that I would say is a major challenge, I think not just for my company, but across. So that's where we need to work with our partners, including my customers, and to see how we can mitigate and to work it out. So it all is very subjective, I would say, yeah.
And Christopher, again, you're on the flip side of the coin, but it must have been really tough for you to be able to meet your customer demands in terms of being able to access the capacity.
Understood, and you're right. So tariffs have really driven massive changes in the freight flows and the access to capacity. As you said, every conference needs to talk about tariffs and logistics. In fact, maybe that's going to be your next book. So there's a lot to unpack here. The interesting thing is we saw this before, at least we saw the preview of this in the first Trump administration many years ago when he first imposed tariffs on China. And that, I think, gave us all a little bit of a taste of what happens when you start putting tariffs onto products. And we're seeing that now with, obviously, there's a huge escalation in tariffs, but the patterns are similar. They're just, at a much, much higher level. And for me, the interesting thing and the piece that we need to plan around as a logistics service provider is that tariffs impact every customer in a different way. They impact every industry in a different way. And really understanding what those differences are really critical to how we as a logistics service provider respond to serve that customer. So just to throw out a few random examples, you've got, as a result of tariffs, there are some parts of the supply chain that are actually creating a China-centric supply chain and a non-China-centric supply chain. The most obvious example would be high-end semiconductors. So because of the US restrictions on China being able to access the high-end equipment, there's actually two fundamentally different supply chains. Now, from a volume point of view, it's not big volume, but from a value point of view and for people in those industries, that's really important. And so how you manage the logistics provision when you're actually creating two fundamentally separate supply chains is very different. On the other end, as you look at the US removing the Section 321 exemptions, that really hit the low-value e-commerce China to US business. It basically, wiped out a whole supply chain overnight. Now, the companies themselves are shifting, so they're trying to position things in warehouses in the US and fundamentally change their business model and their supply chain model. So that's a complete rewrite. It's still integrated between China and the US, but fundamentally the supply chain overnight transitioned into, from an air freight based to an ocean plus warehouse based supply chain. And then you've got things in the middle like automotive. We all would have expected that the automotive sector would have been hit really hard by tariffs, and they have been. You read the press releases, and automotive OEMs are talking about the billions of dollars that tariffs are costing them. But if you look at their supply chains really haven't changed. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is it's really hard to change an automotive supply chain. You can't just say, I'm going to start sourcing the parts not from this supplier to this other supplier, because they've been highly engineered, and there's a codependency between the tier 1, tier 2 suppliers and the OEM manufacturers, and you can't just change that or break that overnight. And given the fact that tariffs have been changing themselves, that it's not like tariffs have been introduced and have stayed fixed. So it seems like every month or sometimes every week or every day there's a change in what the tariffs are. So a lot of the automotive companies are adopting a bit of a wait and see attitude. They're still manufacturing in the same plants. They're still sourcing from the same parts suppliers. They're paying the tariffs where they can. They're trying to, or where they have to. They're mitigating the tariffs where they can. But fundamentally, most of their supply chains are flowing the same way that they have before, because they don't know, and shifting that supply chain is really hard and really expensive. So where you'll actually see the biggest change in supply chains in the automotive was actually not as a result of tariffs, but was a result of the budget bill in the US removing the EV tax credit. And so that's actually caused a couple of automotive companies to scale back EV new production of EV vehicles in the US. And that's actually been a bigger impact on the supply chain than the tariffs have in the automotive sector. And then you've got China plus one. I think everybody here in Southeast Asia has benefited from the whole China plus one strategy of companies. And some people think that that's tariff related, but actually that's been going on for 15 years, maybe longer. It's the gradual shift of certain supply chains that were exclusively dominated by China to now being a combination of China plus Southeast Asian countries plus India and other parts of the world. That change accelerates briefly during tariffs, and that will continue over the next number of years. So that's a big trend for all companies. So, and how, as a logistics service provider, each of those supply chain shifts represents a different challenge for us, a different challenge for our customers, and a different way we need to rewire our network. But fundamentally, the key is to make sure that we've got operations in all of the countries that our customers currently do business and would potentially do business. Ensure that we've got contract logistics facilities, access to air freight, access to ocean freight, access to overland transportation where we need it in all of those countries. Ensuring that the information systems are linked between all of those and that we run a truly integrated solution between contract logistics and freight forwarding for our customers. And make sure we've got the ability to scale up and scale down rapidly in all of those areas, which is becoming much more important as tariffs shift. Our customers need to shift their either volume up, volume down, or shift from one country to another. So we need to be able to respond to all of that. According to these different, 5 or 6 different new supply chain paradigms that are coming out as a result of the tariffs. So I guess the short answer is it's complicated, but that's our job. Our job is to deal with that complication.
That's really fascinating stuff. Thanks, Christopher. Right, we've got 7 minutes left. So, are there any questions from the floor? One gentleman on just over there. Thank you. If you could say your name and your organisation as well.
Sure. I'm Alan Murphy from Sea Intelligence. I'm an old liner guy, so of course I live in a world where every part of the supply chain is downstream from us. And it is something to some extent, because it doesn't matter how great you are at rail optimization if the box is still in China because we didn't pick it up. So I wanted to ask questions about how service levels in the ocean side, how that translate down through the full supply chain. So we've never had great schedule ability in container shipping. It's been okay. It absolutely tanked over the pandemic. But after we came back from the pandemic, we didn't get back to pre-pandemic levels. It's still been quite poor, to be honest. But we have seen initiatives, especially very noticeably the launch of the Gemini Alliance in February, where they targeted 90% schedule reliability. And I'd say we're the benchmark, the people that measure them, and to my somewhat surprise, they've pretty much hit that target nearly every month. But I've got 3 questions to you. I should also say MSC has also considerably improved their on-time vessel schedule reliability. I've got 3 questions to you. Number 1, are you seeing it in your supply chains? Is this actually translating into actually improved supply chain service levels? And number 2, if you see this as a differentiating factor, is it actually a commercial differentiator? Is it actually possible for shipping lines to charge a premium for better service levels? And number 3, do you see that this could something that could drive further down the industry, a greater focus on service levels and visibility?
Wow, I think you've opened a can of worms there. We have 4 minutes, 50 seconds for you to answer. We'll start with you, Christopher.
Yeah, if I could take that. So as a logistics service provider and basically as a customer of the carriers, I really appreciate the carriers' renewed focus on service quality. I think that is excellent, and we absolutely appreciate that. Given what Logisty does and who our customers are, that is our end of the market. So our customers, really appreciate having that high quality of service, and it's not just the on-time delivery. It's everything, as you said. It's upstream of that. Can you get the boxes where you need them, and can you get it picked up and so on? So it's not just does the ship arrive on time. So it's the whole piece. And yes, we definitely favor working with carriers that have got high quality service. Also information visibility and easy to deal with and so on. So yes, that factors heavily in our choice of who to deal with. So I fully encourage the carriers to do that.
But will you pay a premium for that service levels?
We don't look at it in that way. I think the key thing is understanding what's the service that's being provided, what's the market price, and I think I would suggest that a carrier that can provide a really high quality service, if they're getting volume from us by way of our customer, then that's money that their competitor is not getting.
Lawrence.
Well, to answer your questions, as I mentioned earlier, trust is paramount, meaning that when you are supposed to deliver a certain date, in fact, 1 or 2 days ago, I was chasing for shipments and why it has been delayed and all this, because it does have implications to my customers and the delivery dates. So it is crucial and it is important, and I need trusted partners, including the carriers. So what it means is that if these carriers are not performing, I would want to not to use the carriers at all, because I cannot trust the ETA that is being mentioned there and not improving it. That does have huge implications to my business. as we drive the turns, as I mentioned to you, when we drive the turns, what it means is that my inventory level is really low. And once any jerk to that does have implications down the line to my customers and the delivery. And their dates needs to be there. So, and of course, with the 2 weeks into the oceans, in the Red Seas, does increase our inventory overall. So, yeah. So to answer your questions, I do not mind paying a slight premium to get the right service because I don't believe in building commodity kind of things. Today you're my partner, tomorrow you're not. No, that's a long-term relationships that, for me, that's what I'm looking for in my partnerships. So as mentioned again and again, we are on the same boat. We win together, and if it sinks, we are all in it together. So that's key. And I'm not going to shortchange anyone, and I need to be fair to everyone, including my partners who selects whoever carriers. And that is very, very key in my opinion. So I'm looking at the long-term relationships, building the trust, moving forward. So that's where, to answer your questions, yes, it's very, very important to have the reliability and the trust. I'd rather trust someone that can deliver than take the kind of risk and commercially we'll be having issues. And when we say having issues, we will be penalized, penalties, and so forth. So the penny wise, pound foolish, I would say in that sense. So yeah, for my business, I cannot say about others, but that's where I would want to work with partners in the long term in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Right, the first, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up. The first law of moderation is to finish on time, unfortunately. Probably the only law of moderation, so I do apologise for that.
Could I just leave you with the question for you to ponder in your free time?
Please do.
I'm an old liner guy as well. I run software now. I've heard about disruption all my life. When do you think the time is right when logistics providers, buyers, and everybody else who's on the consumer side is going to say no mas, and the time is right for an Uberization disruption of liner shipping? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very quick question. Have we got a quick answer? Okay, not very soon, I think is probably the answer to that. But anyway, so thank you to our panelists. We will wrap up. It's next time maybe we'll spend a little bit more time because it's been a fascinating discussion. So thank you very much to both Lawrence and Christopher. So maybe you can show your appreciation to them.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.